Do you want to read a story that is set up in Afghanistan against the volatile events of last 30 years in Afghanistan, from Soviet invasion to reign of Taliban to post-Taliban rebuilding, a story which has fear, violence, faith, everything. एक ऐसी कहानी, एक ऐसी story which will move everyone, even the hardest of the souls, even the people who consider them very strong, even those people after reading this story, they'll be moved, they'll be touched, and you just won't be able to control your tears. It's very heartbreaking, it's very heart-wrenching to read this book. Reading this story will make your heart ache. You'll feel for the characters, you'll feel for the people who might be still going through all these things. It will make you think how, and you will feel grateful for your living conditions. You'll feel grateful for all the little things that you have, and you'll also feel grateful for the wonderful life you have. We kind of take that for granted from time to time. The book that I'm talking about, it's none other than 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. उनकी जो दूसरी बुक है द काइट रनर, यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड ऑफ दैट बुक. आपने शायद इस बुक के बारे में भी पढ़ा होगा. ही इज़ अ वेरी फेमस बुक. द काइट रनर, इट्स अ क्लासिक. एंड जिस तरीके से उन्होंने उस स्टोरी को नरेट किया, काइट रनर को, ही हैज़ नरेटेड इट इन अ सिमिलर वे. इट्स मच मोर हार्ट ब्रेकिंग, मच मोर डिफिकल्ट टू रीड, एंड एट टाइम्स डिफिकल्ट टू डाइजेस्ट देन द काइट रनर. व्हेन आई वाज रीडिंग दिस बुक, लाइक उसके एंड में, व्हेन आई वाज अबाउट टू कंप्लीट द बुक, और नॉट कंप्लीट, मे बी 1/4 ऑफ इट, I practically skimmed through the book because it was very hard to read it. It was very heartbreaking to read all that was happening, and you couldn't do anything. And more importantly, there are people who are still living in conditions like these. So, not for weak hearts for sure. In this video, we are going to do reaction review of this book. So we'll be reading a couple of reviews online, and we'll see if we agree with them, if we don't agree with them, and why. There will be reasons for that, and let's see how the book is. Okay, so the first one says, I have to add this book to my first for simple reason that this is the first time I have cried like a baby while reading a book. This book just came through. So yeah, means even people who don't cry or who say, we are very tough, even they are moved after reading this book. It's just next level. As I said, I couldn't even complete the book. I had to just read it because it was too tough to read all that was happening in this book. So yes, a very heart-touching book, tear-jerker. Okay guys, so this review summarizes the book very beautifully, very nicely. When I did read the book a week ago, I was engulfed by the beauty of Khaled's writing. Beauty is when you are not willing to believe the characters are fictional. You'll feel so attached to the characters, reading their story, their struggles, what they are going through, और सारी उनकी कहानी सुन के जैसे भी आप fiction novels पढ़ते हो, you start relating to the characters. It's difficult to just think of them just as fictional characters. That's why all the people, for whether it is books or movies, we become very attached to the characters, and that's exactly what happens in this book. Beauty is when your weeping becomes second nature, when you begin to understand the great human suffering. So this book is full of suffering, and just means you can't even imagine that. It's heartbreaking. That's all I can say. When you realize that you have been gifted, the mere things that we have been taken for granted, the things that we have at our disposal every single day. Yeah, as I said, this book will make you feel very grateful for the things that you have. We don't realize it. हम चाहते हैं, we have our focus, we have our aim on the new things, different things. There are different things that we want to achieve. We don't realize how grateful we are or how much we already have. We kind of take these things for granted. The things that are at our disposal every single day. There are people out there for whom this may seem as a dream, maybe a dream never fulfilled. As Helen Keller said, I cried because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. So guys, क्योंकि it's human tendency, जो हमारे पास already होता है, we take that for granted. But there are people out there जिनके लिए that is वही उनकी इच्छा है to have those things, and those wishes, those desires might never be fulfilled. So just be grateful for the wonderful life that you already have. To respect and honor human beings, for a great deal has been endured by humanity. For every person we encounter has a story, wants to be understood. Every person wants to be embraced, has dreams, wants to be seen. And this is the story of every single person on the earth. Life is difficult as is. So if we respect other people, if we honor them, if we empathize with them, if we try to understand them, if we see them for who they are, these little things, it might be little to you, but it can make a huge difference in other people's life. So try to do a little act of kindness every day. It might not matter to you, but it will mean a great deal to the other person. When you realize this, you will start serving, uplifting, giving instead of wanting and getting. So yes, book that will move you to different levels. It will take you some time to recover from this book after reading, that's for sure. Next one says, Be Warned. This book is very emotionally challenging. I could not put it down once I was beyond the first few chapters. So again, means if you don't want to read a very emotionally heavy book, a book that will difficult to digest, or बहुत ज़्यादा heartbreaking books that will be, not everyone can read about human tragedy, human suffering. It's very difficult, and life is difficult as is. You must be going through your own set of things. So if you read only if you are ready for an emotional roller coaster ride. It's amazingly well written and flows beautifully, but the subject matter is just crushingly upsetting, while at the same time there is such beauty and love in some of the relationships. So yes, you will be crushed after reading this book, and as I said, it's very emotionally unsettling book. The result was lots of tears and even sobbing at the end of the book. It left me bereft and emotionally exhausted, but was just blown away by how good the book is. Yes, it's all that. It's very emotional. It's a tearjerker. You will definitely cry while reading this book. It will take you time to get over this book, but yes, you will be blown away by the book and you won't be able to forget about it. That's for sure. I don't see how anyone could fail to be moved or bowled away after reading this. So as I said, it's not possible. There is not one person who would say that he or she was not affected after reading this book, or the book did not had any effect on them. This book is very moving and it's very touching. Next one says, Just when I thought that nothing could top The Kite Runner, I read this. If you like The Kite Runner, which is another book by the same author, you are gonna love this. This is the first time I have spent 5 hours a day reading just a book. So I won't exactly agree with this. I love The Kite Runner. It's my favorite book of all time. Favorite book. I read it a long time back, but it stayed with me, and that was just next level book. That book is going to stay with me forever. This one also, it was very moving, but I don't know, there was something about that Kite Runner that made it more intriguing, more touching than this one. This one was much more sad, much more heartbreaking than The Kite Runner for me, and for the same reason it was much more difficult to read. But yeah, means if you like The Kite Runner, you'll probably like this one also. It had me hooked, and oh, did it make me cry. So guys, मैंने बहुत सारे अभी तक reviews पढ़े हैं. In almost every review, it's there that this book made me cry. So be ready for that. It's one of those stories that will stay with you for a while after you have finished it. Touched my heart in so many ways. Next one says, it's heartbreaking to read about the plight of women in war-stricken Afghanistan. I would recommend everyone to read this book since it will make you really appreciate your life and circumstances. So as I said before, this book, मतलब आप पढ़ोगे ना ये book, you will feel so grateful for everything that you have. Okay. So next one, I completely relate to this review. This is exactly how I felt while reading this book. So this one says, many a times while reading this book, I felt a strong urge to stop reading this and delete it from the device, as it was extremely heart-wrenching even to think of continuing this book. I exactly went through the same thing. बहुत बार एक्चुअली मैंने बुक बंद करके भी रख दिया. I was like, maybe I should not read much more, क्योंकि it was just too difficult to read and what was happening, and to think that actually these things exist or these things happen to people. So it's not an easy read. When I paused reading, the distress annoyed me beyond what I could take. Further, this one says, Whether it was the feeling of sympathy towards their life circumstances, or it was the feeling of helplessness towards the unfair and brutal nature of the world that made me feel so annoyed and heavy-hearted, I do not know. So again, the exact same thing. I guess that's how the world is, and that's how situations are. We can it's difficult when you can't do anything about them. Such things exist, and it's not possible to do anything about them, and so it's a very different kind of feeling, and it's hard to put in words, but it will break your heart, that's for sure. Okay guys, so I've read many reviews. They were all practically the same. सब में same चीज़ कही गई थी, जैसे कि you'll be moved after reading this book, you'll have tears in your eyes for sure, you'll be touched, your heart will be broken after reading this book. It will take you some time to recover from the book. This book is going to stay with you forever. You won't be able to forget the story, and most importantly, you will feel grateful. You will be able to appreciate the things that you already have in your life much more, knowing how the things that you are taking for granted, those are something that other people desire and they might not get that. So you'll be able to appreciate little things much more. You'll be able to understand your fellow human beings much more. Everyone is going through a lot. You'll be able to empathize with them more. So yeah, a must read from my side, but a very tragic book, very tragic tale, and it's very hard to read at times. So if you don't want to read this kind of book, if you don't want to, it's difficult to digest at times. So if you are like that, अगर आपको इतनी tragic book नहीं पढ़नी, so don't read it. Otherwise, if you are okay with that, if you think you can take it, then do read it, because it's going to be a next level experience. This book is going to stay with you forever. So if you think you can take it, do read it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye bye.